Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging with this nerd.
Nerdarchy is Ted.
Is creating plots perplexing your players?
Hey guys, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter. It's a great way to get RPG tips as well as learn how to game with us.
We had an idea for this video. It was prompted in the comments section, again, from a conversation I was having with someone, where basically someone told me if you're the dungeon master and you're putting out plots, you're railroading your players, essentially.
I kind of was weirded out when Dave brought this one up to me, because we live in a world that other things are happening around us, even if we're sitting still. And we're affected by what's going on. Now, players are going to make their choices about what they want to do, what they want to interact with. But if you don't actually provide them things to interact with, then you're just saying, okay, what are you guys doing? And I'm going to just react to you. And I'm just going to just spoon feed you whatever it is that you want. And that's not going to tie a nice storyline together. There are some players or some DMs who go with the complete and utter railroad. This is the adventure that I have planned. This is what you're doing. And
instead of railroad, let's say linear adventure.
Linear adventure, if you will. And you can literally do okay, all right, last session you ended in town, but today you find yourself at the entrance of a dungeon because the game is called Dungeons and Dragons, and for a while that's what it was. You went into a dungeon and you fought a dragon.
You kicked down the door, killed the monster, stole stuff. And there's nothing wrong with playing like that. If that's the game style that your group plays, and that's what you're running as a GM, and you're having fun with it, do it to death. Love the game that you're playing. Nerdarchy is never here to tell you how to play this game, what the right way is. We give you a lot of our opinions and suggestions and
absolutely
and our viewpoint on things. But in my opinion, a really good sandbox is the players start off and there's all these different things that are going on and they can explore. They have this enchanted forest over here, the desolate waste over there. They're on top of the hill to the north. There is an abandoned monastery. Rumor is the crypts are full of riches but monsters as well. To the south you have the plains where the orc nomads travel following prey and herding their animals, whatever they do. But it's dangerous there because there's tribal orcs. So you have all these things that are going on that your players are aware of, right? So as the GM, you might go, hey, there's a crier in town and the local lord needs to send an expedition through the south across those plains that you already know are inhabited by orcs and dangerous to get a message to a city down south or something like that. Or a local, a priest of the order that was formerly inhabiting that temple on the hill has come to town and he's recruiting people to get a sacred artifact back for him. These would all be plot lines, right? That your players could choose to pick at or not. Or they might come to the table with their own plot lines. They may have history, maybe the fighter, his grandfather actually tried to retrieve that sacred relic before and failed and never returned, and that fighter would like to find the body of his grandfather and bring it back.
Right. Now, however you decide to run your game, the thing that you have to remember is the term linear adventure, railroading, whatever have you. There's going to be times that once players start down a path, yes, there's possible deviations and whatever have you, but once you start walking down a hallway, there's only one option. There's only one way to accomplish certain tasks. So it's not so much a railroad as the players have made the choice to go that direction. And therefore, okay, well, you're providing them the most expedient route. Does that mean they didn't hop on a rail cart and start, bobbing the thing up and down? No, it's not. They're not being railroaded. It's based off of their choice. And there's times that, all right, players make a choice in my game. All right, off they go. Well, do I feel like I'm pushing them in another direction? Sometimes yes, but that's the choices that they made. And I'm the kind of DM where I actually improv most of what actually happens at the session. So if the players decide, you know what, I'm going left today, I don't want to go right anymore. All right, well, let's go find off what's to the left, and I'm kosher with whatever happens, because that's just how it works. And there's been many times that I've had to be like, all right, I need to think for a moment because I wasn't prepared for that choice.
A good example from my game would be when I had the players. So I had several of the players who were actually from another realm, and they wanted to get back there. And I had some of the players exploring and checking out this phenomena, and they were linked. And eventually they meet up, and one group wants to actually help the other. And so the plot is, I kind of put the plot out there, but then I put the plot out there in the sense that I took these characters from another world and dumped them somewhere else. Now, they could have said, I don't actually care if I ever go back. I'm here now. And guess what? A railroad would have been going, no, you absolutely have to figure out how to get back to where you were from. But they didn't do that. They just took the hook and ran with it. Then they did eventually get back to where they were. And then there was players that were very much interested in, exploring that new world and checking it out. And during this, they encountered basically a group that was prejudiced against anyone that wasn't like them, that weren't Dragonborn. And one of my players is like, hey, do I recognize any of the people attacking us? And I'm like, yeah, actually, Raza Goldeneye is actually a military genius among the Dragonborn and a noted figure. And so, Ryan's character was infuriated that this guy, basically, he considered him a traitor to the crown. And he's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to bring him to justice. So, which brought us to another thing where I wanted to introduce a new race or villain into the game. And I did, and I tied it to Raza Goldeneye, right? Well, what happens is he becomes something else. Now, if my players would have went, hey, well, he's not Raza Goldeneye anymore. He's some other douchebag. I don't care anymore. We're going to do something else. I could have let that plot thread just die. A railroad would have been, no, you actually have to go. You have to pursue this avenue. But because of the hooks that I put out there, the players genuinely seemed interested, and they continued going down that path. A railroad would have been me forcing them to go down the path, and they didn't want to. Now, there's several ways I could have handled it if they said, you know what, we're just not interested in that storyline anymore. I could have someone else fix the problem. I could have the world go to shit and become a post-apocalyptic world, or I could completely ignore it and never really delve into all the bad stuff that was going to happen because my players and their characters didn't know about it. And if I figured out that my players just didn't find that story arc interesting, then we could have went and did something else, and we could have ignored it, and maybe it could have came up in a future game if the players were interested in running that style game.
There is option number 4. Option number 4 is to find another way to reintroduce that plot using something else that's going on that's going to affect the characters in a different way. So.
Well, I'm going off the premise that my players didn't like it the first time. So I wouldn't try and cram it down their throat a second time.
Well, if you were to find find another way to hook that in to make it more interesting. Like, you have to totally re-envision it. It's like, okay, well, the guy's not Raza Goldeneye anymore. He's, the Vargarian. Well, what if, well, Raza Goldeneye is now sacking another town that's a close by neighbor, or some this is just off the top of my head. There could be something else that spurs the characters into actions. Like, no, this is actually an atrocity. We can't let that actually happen. But
yeah, so basically, yeah, can you find another way to get them interested in that plot line later down? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. A lot of DMing in Dungeons & Dragons, I feel like, is you're just poking your players, right? And you want to see which way they jump. Oh, they jump left, so I'm going to do something with that. Or they jump right, I'm going to do something with that. It's trying to key in on what is interesting to them. A lot of DMs they come up with their story and then they're stuck with it, whether the players want that or not. And the key to being a good, flexible, open sandbox type GM is adapting and going, oh, they're not biting on that. It's not grabbing them. Instead of trying to figure out ways to make them figure out that's going to be a fun story for them, why don't I just figure out what is going to be a fun story for them and try and present that? And a lot of times your players will tell you, sometimes it's a little more difficult because your players don't communicate with you this information. So you're just going to it's a lot of trial and error. Like it's very much more art than science.
That's DMing though. There's a lot of times that it is trial and error, and especially for a first time DM who doesn't have the experience of, well, what has worked before, or I've DM'd for these players before, what do they like? If you're sitting down for the first time, it's really a crapshoot, and you need to figure all of that stuff out. And there's some players, they're brutal, and we've thrown DMs completely into the frying pan, and they jump out quick because they can't handle the heat. Other times, we've had DMs that have lasted time and time again. So,
well, it's a journey, like. Yeah, like you said, it can be trying and challenging, but if you persevere and keep going with it, you're going to eventually find your DMing legs.
I agree.
It's just a matter of keep pushing forward. Hey guys, jump down in the description below where you can tell us your style of entering plots into the game, or do you just go totally free form on it and just react to whatever your players do? While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can support us over on Patreon.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.